Welcome back. All right, season preview time. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres today. The Buffalo Sabres, of course, have been out of the playoffs for a very long time, and so I picked what arguably is their ugliest of the jerseys that they've worn. Although I will say it's different. It's unique. It's definitely something different. And I put the goat head on the board there, and that's what we called it, is the goat head. It's obviously a buffalo head. For the logo on the board. So we'll see what happens with Buffalo this year. If they can get some more games wearing that jersey and play like they did wearing it in 2022, 2023, and get the goals they did in 2022, 2023, while keeping the puck out of the net like they did this past season, you got something going. So the Buffalo Sabres, their leading scorer over the last 10 years, so going back to 2014, 2015, is Jack Eichel. 375 games, 139 goals, 216 assists, 355 points. Second on the list is Sam Reinhart. Now, these two stand out because both of them left Buffalo and won Stanley Cups elsewhere. For Reinhart, 454 games played, 134 goals, 161 assists, 295 points. Rasmus Dahlin, 436 games, 66 goals, 226 assists, 292 points. So Dahlin, very strong start to his career. Jeff Skinner, who of course is off to Edmonton now, 427 games, 153 goals, 138 assists, 291 points. Kyle Okposo, 516 games, 103 goals, 142 points, 245 points. He went to Florida, won a cup as well. Tage Thompson, 331 games, 129 goals, 115 assists, 244 points. Rasmus Ristolainen went to Philadelphia and got a big contract. 508 games, 44 goals, 197 assists, 241 points. Casey Mittelstadt went to the Avs. 339 games, 62 goals, 124 assists, 186 points. Victor Olofsson's gone to Vegas. 314 games, 90 goals, 92 assists, 182 points. Alex Tuch is still here. 199 games, 70 goals, 108 assists, 178 points. Now, in terms of goaltenders over this period in time, Linus Ullmark leading the way with 50 wins. A record of 50, 47, and 13. Luukkonen is second with a 47, 41, and 10 record. Robin Lehner, 42, 61, and 22. Chad Johnson, 32, 32, and 7. And Carter Hutton, 31, 49, and 10 for fifth place amongst goaltenders in terms of wins from 2014-15 until now. So the last 5 seasons have been rough. And honestly, the last, 12 seasons have been rough? Like, it's been a while for Buffalo. 478 points percentage over the last 5 years. That is 24th amongst NHL teams. Goals for per game, 2.95. That's 20th. Goals against per game, 3.34. That's 26th. So that's got to get better. And it did this past season, but it has to stay there. The power play, 20.3%. That's 14th. Overall, been pretty good. This past season, not so much. The penalty kill, 76.3%, 30th amongst the 32 franchises in the National Hockey League. Points percentage this season, this past season of 512 was 22nd in the NHL, so a little better than usual. Goals for per game, 2.98. That was 23rd. So that's the problem right there. A problem they did not have the previous season. Goals against per game, 2.96. That's good for 11th in the National Hockey League. So again, they can get the offense back, keep the defense where it was this past season, they should be a playoff team. On the power play, they were 29th this past season at 16.6%. They should be much higher than that. Their penalty kill was actually 13th at 79.8%. So again, if it was a defensive stat, they were quite good this past season, reversing where they were the year before. So the top 10 scorers this past season, Alex Tuch, 75 games, 22 goals, 37 assists, 59 points. Rasmus Dahlin, 81 games, 20 goals, 39 assists, 59 points. Tage Thompson, 71 games, 29 goals, 27 assists, 56 points. JJ Peterka, 82 games, 28 goals, 22 assists, 50 points. Casey Mittelstadt, at the time of the trade, had played 62 games, 14 goals, 33 assists, 47 points. Dylan Cousins, 79 games, 18 goals, 29 assists, 47 points. Jeff Skinner, 74 games, 24 goals, 22 assists, 46 points. Owen Power, 76 games, 6 goals, 27 assists, 33 points. Zach Benson, who will be counted on for more this year, I would think, 71 games, 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points. And Jordan Greenway rounds out the top 10, 67 games, 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. Their top 2 goaltenders this past season, Luukkonen, 27, 22, and 4, 910 save percentage, 5 shutouts. And Devin Levi, 10, 8, and 2, and 899 save percentage. He did not record a shutout this past season, and Levi's one to keep an eye on for this coming season. Now, for rookie watch, I went with two rookies up front. I went with Isaac Rosen, and that's how I've heard it pronounced at times. Others have not pronounced it Rosen, but that's what I'll say for now. And Noah Ostlund. So, two forwards there who maybe in the event of injury get into the lineup. Who knows? So when we look at the top 12 forwards, this is a pretty good group. It's been changed. It's a little faster than what we had to finish out the season at Buffalo this past year. Up front, you have J.J. Peterka, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck. We know these are your premier scorers. Peterka, it feels like, took that next step this past season while other teammates were struggling. Zach Benson, I would think, will get a shot at a second-line spot with Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn. This is a very talented young forward group. Jason Zucker, I put him on the third line, but I could see him on the second line, sure. Ryan McLeod and Jordan Greenway. And then on the fourth line, they've added Beck Malenstein, Sam Lafferty, who I forgot the T with, so I'll just go ahead and fix that. Nicholas Aube-Kubel is on the list as well on that fourth line. And then the extras, I went with Yuri Kulik, Noah Ostlund, Mason Jobst, Brett Murray, Isaac Rosen, and Lucas Rushek. So there's a lot of good young players here. There's some good depth up front. I don't have any issue with their forward group. And I don't really have an issue with their blue line. And this is where things are interesting for me with Buffalo, because on paper, they should be much better than what they are. On the blue line, you've got Bowen Byram, added in the Middlestad deal, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, and Henry Jokiharju, as well as Matthias Samuelsson and Connor Clifton. That's a very good top six. Now, the one thing is that Power, Dahlin, and the newly added Byram, all three of them are younger compared to most defensemen, and so it's a matter of which veteran presence do they have out there. This is a team that could use like a Brent Burns type, where you've got a veteran who's a good puck mover, can help them learn the game that way, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think this is a very good blue line. I do wonder how this is going to come together, keeping in mind that they were very good this past season. So, yeah, we'll see. And Bowen Byram looked right at home in Buffalo after that trade. Clearly, going to Buffalo has benefited him. So, in net, you've got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I think Devin Levi probably gets the backup role, although they did sign James Reimer. They also have Felix Sandstrom. So, at the very least, Rochester's going to have two good goaltenders in all likelihood, unless Buffalo carries three. And I'm not sure that that benefits anybody if you carry three goaltenders in this situation. Levi's better off playing in the minors and being a starter. So maybe that's how things will turn out. He'll start the season as a starter in Rochester, and James Reimer would start as the backup to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And Luukkonen's numbers in the second half of this past season were insane. So he'll look to pick up where he left off. He's got his contract extension in place. No off-ice distractions for UPL. The cap space for this team, they do have cap space, and it's going to make them a team to watch as the season gets rolling. So $8,449,484 in cap space, according to Puckpedia. And again, there's some room there for them to add up front. There's some room for them to maybe pick up a top four defenseman should the opportunity arise, right? And obviously, you'd trade players out that are currently on the roster to make that work. But they do have that opportunity, I would think. Now, extras on the blue line as well. Ryan Johnson, Jacob Bryson, Dennis Gilbert, Cale Clegg, and Jack Rathbone. So there are some good players here. There's also some good farmhands here. And so I think both Buffalo and Rochester should be in good shape this year. The extras in that, as mentioned, being Reimer and Sandstrom, I just realized I hadn't done the extras on the blue line. So apologies for that. But let's get into the schedule a little bit. And again, I just touch on the schedule. 5 out of 8 are at home in October. So with 8 games in October, they have less games than some of the other teams. Maybe that'll help them out if they can get off to a good start. And that's the key thing. Get off to a good start. November, 7 out of 14 games are at home. So it's not an awful schedule for them through the first 2 months. In the month of February, they have 2 at home, 1 away from home. Then we have the Four Nations Cup tournament. Then they have 2 at home and 1 away from home. So 6 games in the month of February. 4 of them are home games. We'll be right up against the trade deadline by then, so we'll see where Buffalo's at. Could they be in a position to add? Again, they have tons of cap space if they would decide to do so. In April, 5 out of 9 games are at home. So again, it's not a terrible schedule down the stretch for them, and that could benefit the Buffalo Sabres. We shall see. The Stanley Cup odds are currently at plus 5,500. I am not surprised that they have long odds. The odds of them making the playoffs seem to be long at this point. The odds of them making it to the Stanley Cup and winning it, understandable that those are really long odds indeed. So how does the channel feel? Well, with a little over 9,100 votes in, 3% of the channel say first or second for Buffalo. I admire your moxie or trolling ability. 15% say third or fourth, so there's some optimism. There's some optimism around Buffalo. 48% say fifth or sixth, and 34% say seventh or eighth. So it is going to be a very interesting battle for these playoff spots in the Atlantic, because with the polls that I've been doing, not very many votes for seventh or eighth for these teams. There seems to be some optimism in these fan bases, and we'll see which fan bases end up being upset. Because when you've got Detroit, Ottawa, and Buffalo, you can argue reasons why these three teams are in the position that they're in and that they should be aiming for playoffs this year. Odds are one of them is going to make it. Maybe. You'd have to have somebody drop out, and then one of them gets in. The likelihood of all three getting in are very, very slim. Two of the three maybe, but again, if Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa, which of these three teams misses the playoffs this coming season, I would think we'd see some pretty big changes. For Buffalo, it's got to be tough because they haven't made the playoffs since 2011. So what more do you do? And again, as I mentioned earlier, Eichel and Reinhart went on and won Stanley Cups elsewhere. So it doesn't end up being good optics because you can say, well, these guys weren't good enough to get us over the hump, so we moved them. But then they won the Stanley Cup elsewhere. And so it is part of that argument, right? The people will talk down a player for not being good enough to win a Stanley Cup until they do. And if they do it somewhere else, well, then it reflects back on the team. So for Buffalo, you have to make sure you're making the right moves here. But what would you do? Do you think this team's good enough to make the playoffs this coming season? Let me know why or why not in the comment section below. And again, it sounds really simple, right? Just find the goals you had in 2022, 2023, add the defense you had this past season, and you're a playoff team. Easier said than done, obviously, but let me know your thoughts. Are you confident they can bounce back offensively? Do you think they just had a great 2022-2023 and what we saw this past season is more realistic for the players? Do you think the defense can keep it up? Do you think they can make it? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.